Hey, everybody out in Pittsford Men in High School land. This is Tommy and Jay, our special guest, Jay Coyle. We're here just talking about where we've been since high school. We're riffing. We're making this up. Hopefully this stuff with the stories we tell are real. We're just going to have some fun. Thanks for watching. Jay, thank you for being here.
Of course, man. Happy to be here. Happy to talk to you.
So, Jay, you're in Memphis, Tennessee. Is that correct?
Very incorrect. I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just the suburb of Nashville.
Okay, so Memphis. I meant to say Nashville. Oh, okay.
That's okay.
So you're in a suburb of Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. What brought you to Nashville?
A record label job in 2007. So packed up my family from Atlanta, and we moved here the family moved here in July of 07, but I moved here in April of 07. Was living out of a corporate apartment to have my C-level marketing job at a major record label. So,
yeah. Okay, I jumped forward. So
that's okay.
Let's talk a little bit about. We graduated from high school.
Yeah.
What did Jay do after high school?
It's funny you said making this up. My entire life has been making stuff up, and I don't mean lying. I haven't lied. It's just when I was leaving Pittsford, it was I want to get as far away as possible. My parents were separated, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life. My brother was at Syracuse, and I looked at I applied to Ithaca, and I was waitlisted, and I took that as how dare they waitlist me. Not that I had an ego, but I was like, well, if you want to accept me, then I don't want to go to your school,
right?
Which I guess was ego. But anyways, my dad had come back from a business trip in late 85, and he was in Atlanta, and he and his buddy went over to Athens to go look at Athens. And my dad said, oh, I got to go to this place, Athens. My son talks about it all the time, because my favorite band was REM. And he came back with a brochure for the University of Georgia and a rugby shirt that was a 1980s white and red long sleeve rugby shirt with the University of Georgia logo on it. And it was his way of basically saying, I approve if you want to look at this as an opportunity for school. And it was literally the same month that I guess it was early 86 by now, because it was the same month that I got turned down from Ithaca. And so it would have been early 86. And then he so he did that, and I was like, well, shoot, I'll go ahead. And back then, I have to tell the story. It's so funny. University of Georgia is now a completely competitive school to get into. I have a buddy of mine that runs the music business program there that was not there when I was there. I've gone back many times and taught to the students. My nephew went there, graduated from there. I know tons of friends who had their kids go there that I knew as former, fellow college students. It's very, very competitive. Back then, all I had to do was that brochure my dad brought home. I literally just filled out the back of the brochure. That was my name, my address, why I want to go to the University of Georgia, and I said to explore a different town and hopefully be part of the music community. I put that in there, and I got an acceptance letter, and I was like, I got accepted. And the cost of Georgia, my brother going to Syracuse, the cost of Georgia, I was less than half what my parents were paying for undergrad at Syracuse for my brother. And I was like, it's a win-win. I got into the school, and it's a cheaper school than I would. So my dad said, my mom's like, cool, let's do it. So anyway, so after high school, I go down to Athens, and man, it was a culture shock. It was like a total fish out of the water, huge university. I plead total ignorance. I did not at all investigate the college. I didn't.
Sure, you had no idea. You just filled out the box top and sent it in.
And I knew that REM was from there. And I said, well, shoot, if a band's going to be from this town, and I know it's fertile because the B-52s had been from there. I heard of this band Pylon. REM was there. There was all these other bands there. I'm like, surely I'm going to find my people. And so anyways, I go to school there, and it is a huge, huge school, and I'm overwhelmed. And it's fall semester, and there's this thing called SEC football. I'm like, what? Yes, we have football in Pittsford and Pittsford Men, and I was even on the team. But like, this was something I'd never seen before. But the greatest thing was that it had these great music venues. And from the moment I hit town, I was seeing live music and started hanging out with my cohorts on the same hall in my dorm and met some other musicians. I formed a band. Like, it was great, but then it was like also like, okay, but this is a really big school, so it's kind of a culture shock thing. But long story short, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I figured, well, I'm at least in Athens, and I'm at this huge university, and I'm in a band. All was good, and I would figure out what would come next. And so that's kind of what I did when I was in there. But it was also the type of thing where you had to go 4 years and then an additional semester. It's actually quarters back then. So I knew I was going to be there I knew I was going to be there 5 years, or at least 4.5 years. So I had time to figure out what would be next. But, to me, it was all about being in a band, seeing live music. And then because the school was so big, I befriended a bunch of guys that all pledged the same fraternity. And I didn't consider myself a fraternity guy. I didn't consider that, but it made the school a lot smaller for me. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll do this thing. And ironically, the band that I end up joining my senior year of college, the band I actually stayed around in Athens after I graduated, and we recorded a bunch of stuff. They were all like me in the sense that they lived both in the fraternity world and what was called the townie world, right? So you had the musicians in town that played in bands. And I have never purported to be cool. I've never been cool. But even being in a band, it was very antithesis of being a fraternity guy. But the cool thing was all of us were fraternity band guys. So we got to play at all of our fraternities and then had an instant crowd to come see us at shows. So we kind of had the best of both worlds, literally, which was great. But I loved it. I loved it in Athens.
You mentioned football and the difference. My brother lives in Atlanta, actually, Gainesville, Flowery Branch, actually.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is. Yeah.
And so when you talk about football stadiums at high school locations in Georgia, it's a completely different. I mean, there are some colleges, like probably Division I colleges, that don't have the amount of seats that these stadiums have.
No. And so it was to this day, my wife and I, we met at UGA. We're huge Bulldog fans, and we go see games. We watch games all the time. We're part of the Alumni Association here in Nashville. Like the SEC football community is it's just so amazing to experience it. That was a really cool thing to experience. And that's one thing that once I felt kind of accepted and felt like I was part of the community in Athens, and just going, okay, yes, I'm a Northerner, but I'm not. Once I lost my Northern accent, it was a pretty cool experience. And, all these years later, I've met so many people that have had similar situations where they've come from other places, gone to university, and kind of had so many good change happen to them that it was great. Yeah. And but I will be truthful that there was that thing where it's not that I was ever embarrassed about Pittsford, and I was never embarrassed about Rochester, but because my brother went to Syracuse and my mom's family was from Syracuse, I was like, I don't want to just go to Syracuse. And then when I didn't get in Ithaca, I'm like, well, shoot, that's still so close. That then it kind of turned. I'm like, I have to go explore the world, and I'm going to see what else I can do. And so going all the way to Athens, I was never homesick. I went home. My dad was still there until 2000. But I never missed Rochester. I would tell people that I was from Western New York or upstate New York, actually. And they go, oh, New York City. I'm like, no, people in the South didn't understand it.
No, you don't get it. You don't get it.
We just always said my statement was, I'm from upstate New York, but I'm closer to Toronto than New York City. And they go, right. Oh. And so I'm like, I would tell people I have more of a connection to the city of Toronto than I did to the city of New York. And it's true. I did. To this day, ironically, I work with a band from Toronto, and I've traveled more in Canada and have been to Toronto more than I have been to New York City. So still.
And Toronto's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful city. You get to see the Blue Jays, the CN Tower, all the cool things that are there.
Yeah, so it's very cool.
So Georgia Bulldog. Yeah. You're in a fraternity. You're playing in a band. What did you study in school?
I found the only kind of the only thing that seemed to make sense, because when I was asked what I wanted to do from my parents, I was like, well, I really want to do music, but what music? Well, I wanted to either play it, but I also knew subconsciously that that's a really hard life. I was not stupid. But then I thought, okay, well, if I couldn't if I couldn't play professionally, maybe I can be involved in the business. And to me, I was obsessed with records and record labels. So I was like, I want to work for a record label. But there was no such thing as a record label business, the degree. And at Georgia at the time, they didn't have a music business program. So I said, okay, let's deconstruct that. What do I like about record labels? Well, if I worked at a record label, if I didn't sign the artist, I want to help promote them and market them and get people to buy the records. So I was like, okay, well, that's sales and marketing. Okay, well, I don't like the business school. It's a little too white collar, a little too conservative for my taste. I'll go this other route, which was advertising. So in the journalism school, they had a Bachelor of Journalism for advertising. And so my major was advertising. But because of the credits needed for advertising, I also took marketing classes at the business school, which allowed me to have a minor in business. So majored in advertising and minored in business, which was great. And flash forward to all these years later, I use so much of what I learned in those core courses, but I didn't know I was learning stuff that would help me later in life. Which you
didn't realize it. You just said, okay, I got to go through this, and then voila, I need it.
Yeah, yeah.
That is so awesome. Okay, you've mentioned REM a couple times. Have you ever met the band?
Oh yeah. Spoiler, to fast forward to 5 years ago, my business partner now is their former manager of REM. So this guy named Jefferson Holt managed REM from 1981 until 1996. Mythical creature, never met him. He divorced from the band in hush hush, like literally they cannot talk about it in the press. What happened? There was accusations against him, all untrue. All these other things that happened. He was just this mythical creature that was informative of the band and helped launch them. Idolized by so many fans like myself. He was the fifth member of the band. He was included in a song. He's name checked in songs. He's on like a B-side recording, singing, like just this bigger, larger than life character. Anyways, so yeah, I met them, and that band that I was in college is a band called the Violets, and we had a good fan base in Athens, so much so that we had Michael Stipe, the singer, and Mike Mills, the bassist, come to see us a couple times. And then our guitarist, Lee, was friends with Mike Mills. So they knew of us, and they knew us around the scene. But as Jefferson said, basically from 1982 to 1988, they were on tour all the time. So they were never, it was rare that they were in town. They were mostly out of town touring.
What a hard life. What a hard life.
Yeah, a very hard life. But yeah, so I got to meet them. But also will tell you this, Tommy, that me in 1986, traveling to Athens, Georgia, with hopes of joining a band, there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of J. Coyles that did that. And so I met tons of people that moved to Athens or went to UGA in hopes of forming a band because REM did that. So I was not, there was a time where I was embarrassed to tell people that's why I was going to Georgia. I was like, now it's a badge of honor because of the fact, my life that I've had. But I also found in my business over the last 20 years, I've met so many people that were like, wow, that's so, like, of course you went to Athens, and of course you joined a band, and of course you did that. And it's like, well, yeah, but it just felt weird to my parents saying, well, Jay's down in Athens. Why? Because he likes the band REM. It's like, I don't know a lot of people from our school that if you were to take a poll of all the kids we graduated with, I guarantee you there's not a single person that picked their college because of a band.
No. I went to University of Toronto because of Rush. No.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's outstanding. That's absolutely outstanding. Okay.
You said something I have to bring up.
Please.
Very timely. Tom Gately, dear friend. Tom.
Yes.
Tom was in our class younger, then he stayed back, so he technically graduated a year below us. But I was reminding people now that Rush is back together and playing shows that in 1985, Tom and I skipped school, drove up to Toronto on the final night of the Grace Under Pressure tour for Rush, and saw the final night at the Maple Leaf Gardens. We wanted so badly to meet them. We hung out by the stage door, and the bouncer / roadie that was there, it was a road crew guy that was also working the door that night, turned out to be from Rochester. And he was living in Toronto and working.
How cool is that?
Working crew for Rush. So he befriended us. And we were out there with about another probably 20 kids or so. It just got down to 5 of us, me and Tom, this other guy who I still don't remember who it was, his name, this third guy who drove us. I think it was Neil Kennedy's cousin. It was Neil Kennedy's cousin. Don't remember his name. Sorry, Neil. But anyways, long story short, this guy kind of leans over, really hush hush, and says, "They've already left the building. You're not going to meet them, but don't leave." And so once those last couple of people left, he's like, "Okay, since you're from Rochester, since you guys drove up, I'll take you to their after party." And so they were having an after party at the Bamboo Club, and we got to go to the end of tour party. When we walked in, mind you, we were what? I don't know what I was, 18, 17?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
We weren't, A, we shouldn't have been in the bar, but B, it was a closed event. And because it was a closed event, they let us in. And I remember the bouncer basically walking over to Alex, the guitarist, and whispering and telling the story that why we were there. And he's like, thumbs up, cool. And then after he was done talking, we walked over, he introduced us, and Alex was shit-faced. And so I met Alex Lifeson, the guitarist, to Rush that night. He offered us beer, so we go over and we get a Molson and we're drinking beer. And then Geddy's at another table, the bass player. We walk over and talk to him. And of course, me being a drummer, I'm like, "Where's Neil?" Well, Neil was on the second level, and that was like only the inner circle could go up there. So they're like, "Sorry, Neil's not coming down." I'm like, that's fine. But we stayed for probably 45 minutes. But I mean, I still remember when we left, like we were like, Tom and I, no one's going to believe us. There's no way that people are going to believe that this
You're
happened.
right. No one's going to believe you.
And so I have to tell the story only because I have told that story since that day that it happened. And still people are like, first of all, you skip school. Your parents let you drive up there with a guy that you didn't even know. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. It was a whole different world back then.
It was a totally different world.
It's just a whole different world.
Well, it was, in the summertime, it was get out of the house. Don't come back until it's dinner time. I don't care where you're at. I don't want to know.
Right.
That is such a phenomenal story.
And I got to tell it, Tommy, in a very, very condensed version to Geddy Lee about 6 years ago. He was doing a book signing here in Nashville, and my buddy and I went, and I walked up to him and I shook his hand, and he was writing his signature. And I said, "I have to thank you because you've helped informed what I do for work." And he's like, "What do you do for work?" And I told him who I worked with, and the band that I work with out of Toronto is a band called Sloan. And I said, I work with the band Sloan, but it was Rush that kind of like, I used to travel to Toronto all the time. Me and my best friend, in fact, we went to the after party after Grace Under Pressure, and his eyes just looked at me. Like, he was just like, and I said, "And you were very kind to me, so thank you." But it meant a lot that a guy that worked with you let us do this. B, that you and your bandmate didn't kick us out. I felt that if that's what the music business is like, then I think I want to be a part of that version of the music industry. And that's what I purport to do today. And he's like, "That's very cool. Thank you." And that was the time. So yeah, it's very cool.
Did you go to such a great story? Were you at Barker Road Middle School?
No. I was at Barker Road Middle School. Yeah, I thought you were going to say I went to elementary at Park Road, Barker, Mendon.
So did you have Mr. Whitney as your music teacher?
Of course I did, dude. Of course.
So my love of Rush started with Rick Whitney.
There you go. Well, yeah.
Started when the Signals album came out.
Uh-huh.
He had us in class, and he actually started playing Subdivisions, and he actually passed out the lyrics to all of us. And he spent a couple classes dissecting the album.
Yeah.
And that's where I fell in love with Mr. Whitney and fell in love with Rush. And
God rest his soul, because I know he's passed.
Yes.
He gave me and Gately and Todd Jones our first gig, and he had us play an activity night at Barker. And so, like, he was literally the first guy that said, "Hey, you guys can be a band and you guys can play in front of somebody." And that was the first gig we ever had outside of playing in my basement or playing from a garage party, was playing at an activity night. And then later he had us back when we were in high school, freshman year. We played a dance, because I remember the underclassmen, because we were coming back from high school, they thought we were like the coolest. And I'm like,
"Oh yeah."
I was like, I was laughing. We were laughing. I'm like, we're nobody, but that's fine. But I just remember playing Jump. I remember playing Behind Blue Eyes. I remember playing Won't Get Fooled Again. But yeah, my first ever performances in public were thanks to Rick Whitney.
Oh, what a great man! I have a warm spot in his heart, my heart for him.
Yeah.
Total warm spot.
Yeah.
You say your favorite memory of high school is laughing with friends. Is there any connection that you had in high school that is still going on today?
Yes. Thanks to COVID, I basically beat up my close friends and said, "This is bullshit. We have to stay connected." So, in a we've tried every app. We went from iMessage to Facebook Messenger to Signal to Telegram. This is all thanks to Todd Adelot. Todd Adelot was like, "Guys, I have to be on this, whatever." Like he was just paranoid about somehow this getting broken into and him
Sure.
causing
Okay.
damage.
Security. Got it.
Whatever. So we have a WhatsApp group message that is me, Rob McNamara, Henry Ferris, Matt Miller, Dan Cohen, and Todd Adelot. And as of the reunion, when we drummed up trying to get people out to it, Jay Bott has now since joined. So those are the guys that Jay most recently, but Todd and all those other guys have been,
I love that.
have been in communication since 2020 regularly. Not that we weren't previously, but now like if not every day, every other day that someone's chatting about something. And we've gone on 2 trips so far as a crew. And we're trying to do a Memphis trip. We did a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trip. So you see the theme here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's been really special to have that, and that's why, ironically, none of those guys came to the 40th, and so I was christened photo taker and message giver for all them, and I was like, and it wasn't because they didn't want to come. All of them had conflicts or had just traveled. Like Dan had just traveled to Rochester to see his parents. He lives in Los Angeles. Henry had just come to Rochester, and then Todd and Rob were back and forth because both have ailing fathers. And then Matt, I still don't know why. Oh, Matt was in Iceland with his son. That's right. So, anyways, nobody could come. So I was the only one that could come.
Well, we're certainly glad you came, and everybody who came. Holy cow! What an amazing!
It was fun. Real fun.
It was a great experience. Okay, I want to talk about what's one thing that you wish you could whisper in 18-year-old Jay's ear and go, "Okay, Jay, here's really the 411.
Yeah.
Don't screw this up. I'm talking to you from 40 years in the future. Yeah. What would you wish you knew then?"
Well, I didn't get involved in the music industry until I was 38, mostly for insecurity reasons. I was so insecure. I was so worried about failing. I was so worried about not being cool. I was so worried about how does a guy go to school because his favorite band is REM and doesn't have any experience. How does he then find his way into the music industry? But through a lot of life changes and a lot of other opportunities, talking about the learning skills at going to college, I realized at some point after running my own marketing company, after working with my own bands in Atlanta, after trying to manage a band in Atlanta, and then befriending the guys in the Bare Naked Ladies in the 90s, I realized, why am I not working in the music industry? And so it took until I was 38 that I finally said, okay, job loss came. It was July of 2006. We just passed the anniversary of that because when I saw that it was the date, I said to my wife, like, you know what happened, back in 2006 on this day? She's like, no. I'm like, I lost that job. She's like, oh. And that was when I still remember looking at the calendar and I was like, it's now or never. It's now or never. I got to shit or get off the pot. So I'm going to pursue working somehow in the music business. My goal is going to be work at a record label. So telling my younger self back then, it's okay to be obsessed with music as I have been, which I was never embarrassed by it, but as a livelihood, I was like, well, I don't know how this is going to work out. But also just the insecurity of it. I thought I didn't deserve it. I didn't think I could do it. I was worried. I think the catchphrase is I was just an overweight, insecure kid that didn't feel he belonged. And so I would have told myself back then, you have what it takes. You have the ability to do this. You just keep chasing after it and it'll show itself. And that's eventually what happened. And so I'm very, very fortunate that since the age of 38, now I'm 58, that in the last 20 years, if you had told me 20 years ago that I would be teaching music business for Berklee School of Music, that I was run my own record label with REM's former manager, and that he'd become a very, very close personal family friend. Like, I love his family. He loves my family. He had told me that I would be touring with some of my favorite bands, that I would help some of my favorite bands over the last 20 years release albums. I just, that I worked at a major record label. I would have never believed you, because it just didn't seem that it could be possible. But all of it happened. So
you just needed to believe in yourself. You needed to believe that Jay Coyle was awesome enough to rock this out.
Yeah. Which, you know, I still battle insecurity heavily, but one of the most kind of life-affirming statements to come out of the reunion was when people asked what I was doing, and I said what I was doing. There wasn't a single person that had said something like, "Of course you are," or "Yeah, that makes sense," because it was like, but like I said, that wasn't until I was 38. So if I had gone to the 20th, I think I did go to the 20th, and I wasn't working in music yet, but I was hoping I was on the warpath to do it, but I hadn't gotten there yet. Now it wasn't a dream. It's now, I mean, it is a dream. I'm living the dream, but now it's just like, oh wow, it took me so freaking long to get there, you know, but everything happened for a reason. So.
Everything does happen for a reason. And I love what you said. I absolutely love the fact that, you know, you just need that self-confidence. You needed that, I guess, life change, job firing, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then you said to yourself, okay, Jay, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm going to do this. And, you think about how many different times people have started something and then said, you know, coulda, woulda, wished. I wish I had done that.
Yeah.
No, just go full tilt in it. Just and if it turns out that it turns into a train wreck, at least you had fun doing it. At least you're trying. And oh, that's so great. I mean, I always come back to the WD-40 story. The WD-40. I mean, there's the reason it's named WD-40 is because there's 39 formulas that didn't work.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and even like Thomas Edison, when he'd find a filament, it took him like 1,800 different filaments, and he didn't say, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible." He goes, "Nope, now I found one that doesn't work," and just kept trying, and you kept trying from the after party at Rush all the way to running your own music label with the former manager of REM. How cool is that?
Yeah. What's interesting is I remember when I was interviewing for jobs in 07. Up here in Nashville from Atlanta. My wife and I met at UGA last semester, started dating, then we dated since then, and then got married in 1995, and lived in Atlanta. We have 3 kids, moved up here in 07, like I said. But when I was interviewing, people would basically say, okay, and they look at the resume, and I had nothing as a actual job in the music industry. I had all the peripheral in that I was in a band. I had managed a band. I even put that I was a DJ at our RPM, Radio Pittsburgh Mendon. Anything I could do that was music related so that they would give me a chance. But it was then when I sat down and talked to them and I spoke about the knowledge base of marketing and sales and running my own marketing company, which wasn't music, it was restaurants, but all this other stuff that was, as they say, transferable skills. I was like, oh shit, why did it take me so long to realize that being a student of the music industry that I have done since probably 1976, been so obsessed with labels, managers, artists, promoters, like understanding how it works, even though I didn't do it as a job, I understood it so that when I sat across from somebody that did it as a job, I could speak their language. I could speak their lingo. And that literally was what helped, jettison from 0 to 100 plus was, oh, okay, well, you know what you're talking about, even though you've never been paid to do this. I'm like, yep, exactly. So very cool.
So Jay, besides REM, what's another 80s band that's probably on heavy rotation on your on your Spotify or iTunes music?
I mean, I still adore The Who, still obsessed with them, still obsessed with Rush. It's killing me that I haven't seen the Rush show since they're touring right now.
Tickets are so expensive. If they come to the Sphere, I told my wife, I said, if they do a residency at the Sphere, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be AWOL for a couple of days. I'm going.
But, a lot of the... besides that, I still listen to all the time U2, the English Beat, a lot of the punk stuff. So the Clash, the Jam,
sure,
Elvis Costello, XTC, all the stuff that I was getting into from 81 to 84. I mean, like the amount of music that came out when we were coming in from Barker and into Mendon, just insane. And it's fun because a lot of the bands that I work with now, either most of us have the same experience, and so I work with a lot of people that are my age, which is great. So a lot of the bands that I work with, like the band Sloan, the band Letters to Cleo, the band Super Drag, which are a little younger guys, but like the band The Presidents of the United States of America, Veruca Salt, 10,000 Maniacs, they're older than us, but they're from Jamestown, which is west of Rochester. So there's a lot of touch points that are, it's easy to talk to these musicians, and I speak a similar lingo that they do, even though I didn't have the same experience they did. We have this love of these bands, and that's truthfully like the band Sloan. I think I toured with them for 15 years, helping the day-to-day manager basically assistant manage them, and ironically literally just got off the phone with him before this because I still work with them, I just don't tour with them. But being on a tour bus with those guys, we all had the same experience. They were all total Rush nerds, and we all geeked out on seeing, this band, or loving Van Halen, or loving The Jam, or loving Elvis Costello, because they're all 57, 58. And it's like having that, we are all music nerds. They just do the performance and the songwriting. I do the business side of things. And it's really cool. So, but all that stuff is like, if you can't see, I mean, you could see, these are all to be filed CDs, but if you could see the rest of my world, it's literally, I'm surrounded by boxes of my albums that my label puts out, samples that I have to go put in a warehouse, and then I've got rows and rows of vinyl and rows of CDs. My wife's saying over and over again, at some time we have to move. What are you gonna do with all this? I'm like, it's coming with us. What are you talking about? it's gonna be worth something. And what I love is
you're gonna have to move. Oh, you're gonna move with us, honey.
Well,
no, what about all your crap?
I have created mini-me's in that my 24-year-old daughter sees live music all the time. My 21-year-old daughter is literally a mini-me, to the point that she obsesses, makes her own playlist every month of new material, new stuff she finds. I have gone to many shows with her. She buys and asks for vinyl all the time.
Love it. Her
Christmas list is literally just vinyl and like clothes, and my wife takes the clothes, and my wife just goes, here's what Leah wants. And then my son is a total Beatles nerd. Listens to the Beatles channel all the time, always just obsessed with the Beatles. And it's like all three of them, like, I'm a very proud father to have three fellow music nerds in the house. So.
Well, you know what? You're keeping this going. And if it wasn't for people like Jay Coyle, then vinyl wouldn't be having a resurgence, and the music industry may be looking different.
Yeah.
And while we're on that topic, last thing, while I was in Rochester, I went to the House of Guitars.
No, dude. Insane.
And it's completely insane. 60 years that place has been there. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they take inventory, Jay Coyle?
Here's the crazy thing, Tom. I had the label that I started. I told my partner, I was like, I want to shine a light on Rochester. So I have some things in the works that I'll actually be up in Rochester in the second to last week of September.
Cool.
For an album release for a band that I'm putting out. I've done 3 of these previously. So over the last 3 years, there's a band that was around when we were in high school called New Math. They changed their name in '85 to a band called Jet Black Berries. And so we've done the New Math catalog, and now we're doing the Jet Black Berries catalog. Long story short, this is giving me excuse to come back and reconnect with Rochester, which I've loved. It's been fun. It's been great. Because my father is now since passed, but he moved away in 2000, and my mom moved away in '86. So I've had no roots since 2000. But getting to know the city again as a proud Rochesterian, and from a guy that grew up in Pittsford, it's been a lot of fun. And having this record label, I basically started saying, well, I'm going to call on the local record stores and let them know, hey, this label exists. Yes, you can buy it through our distributor because we're internationally available through our distributor. But I was just going to, because I was physically going to be there, I was like, I'm just going to call these owners and say, would you want to take some product in for these reissues that we're doing? And I reached out to a brand new one called Needle Drop. I reached out to the Bop Shop, and I reached out to the House of Guitars. And the House of Guitars guy that actually does the buying is one of the owner's sons.
Yep.
So not the guy from the commercials that we'd recognize, but it's the son. And to walk into the House of Guitars, I kid you not, I walked in with like 3 LPs and like 3 CDs, and I was selling it to him wholesale, and I was bringing it into him, and he took it, and he met me on the floor, and he wrote out a check to Propeller Sound Recordings, my record label, handed it to me, and I gave him an invoice, and then he just left it on this thing, and I said, "Are you going to put that away?" He goes, "Oh yeah, someone will come over later and just make sure that it's in the bin." I was like, "Okay." There was no room in the bin. I don't know how they're going to fit it in there. And then that was the first time. Then the second time I came back, did it again. And I asked the guy, Eric, I said, so I asked him about some release, this band called the Chesterfield Kings, Rochester band.
Yes.
Rock. I was like, how come you guys haven't repressed the Chesterfield Kings? He's like, well, we pressed it. I'm like, I know, but it's not available on streaming. Well, it doesn't need to be. We've already released it. I'm like, yeah, but it's like, I can't stream it. And I can't buy it again. Like I bought a used copy, but he's like, oh, we've got it somewhere around here. I'm like, where? He goes, well, this is the local section. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm sure we've got it. I'm like, you don't. I've looked. You don't have it. He's like, oh, okay. Like they just don't care. I don't know how they remain in business.
It's completely bonkers. Their organizational system is, and you're right. There's only 2 or 3 people that have any idea what kind of roadmap that place has got. It's bonkers.
But I bought my drum set that I still play to this day there. I know tons of people. I know bands from all over the world that regularly go to the House of Guitars to buy guitars and to buy gear. And it's just one of those really, as a record store, it's horrendous. But as a music store, it actually has clout. So there you go.
And I mean, and you get to see like a full-size Marshall stack. You get to see, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Jay Coyle, this has been such a blessing to hang out with you. Is there anything you want to say as we're exiting into the sunset for our first episode?
Yes, I would say.
Please.
I would say this twofold. One, I would love for people to go check out my label's website.
Love that.
Propeller Sound Recordings. We specialize basically in, for lack of a better term, indie rock. We have some new acts on the label. We've got a lot of reissues, and a lot of that comes from the relationships that Jefferson and I have had. But it's been really important to me to tell and shine a light and tell the story of Rochester. So my hope is that next year we'll have more Rochester-based releases moving into the future. It's given me excuse to come back to Rochester a lot, which has been great. But then I would also say that I would hope that no one would be a stranger. And I love that you were so amenable to my ideas about trying to make our class directory that you put together more usable so that we can stay in contact with each other through social media, through email, through whatever. But I would also offer to anybody, because I get hit up a lot. Hey, my son wants to get into music, or hey, my so-and-so wants to. And seriously, if someone's watching this and has a family member that's having a question about they want to go to school for music industry or music business, or they somehow want to work in the music industry, by all means, reach out. I'm happy to help and guide them. I never had that. I never had that.
You want to be a mentor, and I love that.
But I want to be a mentor for anybody that I can. And thankfully, being a teacher, because I've taught for 12 years for Berkeley, it's been huge. I love it so much. I love teaching. I teach music marketing, music business, and artist management. And I've probably, over the last 12 years, hundreds of students have probably come through those classes. And I just love it. I love being able to impart whatever wisdom I can. And the number one thing I tell them all the time is, yes, have confidence in yourself, but trust the passion that you have. And you have to have passion in this industry, because it is hard to make money. It's hard to keep momentum going. And bands kind of have their heyday, and then they kind of may not fall, they fall out of fashion or whatever. But fans never die, and fans love their favorite bands. And as long as you're taking after the fans, I think that's what made it so easy for me to finally get in. Is I'd been a lifelong fan, since the first record I bought in 1976. It Played Against Sam on Monroe Avenue.
Played Against Sam. Oh my gosh, right there by the Lowe's. They're just. Yeah. Oh my gosh, how? And then that turned into, it was Play Against Sam. Then what did it turn into? Fantastic? Didn't it turn like Fantasy's Restaurant? Fantastic?
No. It was, I don't remember what it became after Played Against Sam, but Fantasy was the one that was down on, that was the one, no, that's the one you're thinking of.
Yes,
Fantasy
that's exactly
was
right.
The one that's down in Pittsford. Played Against Sam was up Monroe, all the way into the city.
Oh, got it.
Near the, not, oh gosh. It basically ended up near where Country Suite was. in that section of Monroe Avenue. Yeah. So not the Pittsford side, but definitely the downtown Rochester side. So
Jay Coyle, thank you so much for inspiring us. Thank you for coming to the our 40th reunion and for being such a light in the world and for spreading music everywhere you go. You guys, Viking Voices we're going to be coming back. We got so many great people. I got about a dozen people who have asked to do this. Jay, thanks for being a guinea pig on this. I appreciate your time and spend the afternoon with me.
It's been a blast, Tommy. Thank you so much.